Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Legends of Tomorrow Season 6 review series. And today I am going to be talking about episode 13, Silence of Sonograms, which I have just finished watching. And this episode was a little bit better than episode 12, I would say. Not perfect, some parts were a little bit silly, but I think this episode was slightly better than the last one. Probably the most enjoyable thing about this entire episode was the stuff that was going on with Constantine, where he's trying to battle his own demons from within. I thought that was probably the most enjoyable of the entire episode. But aside from that, this episode didn't really have a lot going for it, but it was a little bit better than episode 12. This season's had its share of ups and downs. There's been some good episodes, there's been some rubbish episodes, and there's been some episodes that were fairly average. So this episode, I would say, is probably above average, but still not 100% perfect. So I'm going to give a quick recap of what's happened, and then we're going to get straight into talking about episode 13. And also, I didn't realise this, but we are now 2 episodes away from season 6 wrapping up, and it's quite amazing how time has flown by so quickly, because it wasn't that long ago I was talking about the season 6 premiere of the show, and now here we are 13 episodes later. We are now almost ready to wrap up the 6th season of Legends of Tomorrow. Absolutely insane, I think. Unbelievable how time has just flown by so fast. So what we have seen in season 6 so far is we've learned that Gary is really an alien, and we've learned that Sarah, who was abducted at the end of season 5, has now come back as an alien human hybrid clone of herself. And we've also seen Mick Roy has now been impregnated by an alien and is harvesting aliens in his head and is ready to give birth to aliens any day now. And also we've seen Constantine losing his powers and battling his demons from within. So there's been a lot going on in season 6 so far. And also Spooner has now officially joined the Legends. So aside from its ups and downs, you know, there's been some good episodes, but there's been some pretty silly ones, I think. And this episode pretty much picks up where we left off at the end of episode 12, where Sarah heard some weird music being played in the study, and she was greeted by someone who we don't know yet, but we are going to get into that in a moment. But it's been a very weird and strange season for Legends of Tomorrow. So with that all said, let's get straight into it. Let's talk about episode 13, Silence of Sonograms. So this episode opens with Sarah discovering Bishop on the Wave Rider after Kayla downloaded him from the cloud to the printer, and he claims he is the final version of himself as his data was corrupted, so if he kills him, that's it, no more Bishop. He claims to have changed and offers to prove it to her. She puts him in the containment cell, and Sarah leaves Spooner in charge of guarding him. Sarah explains to Ava and Nate that 6% of Bishop is missing because the upload wasn't finished before they destroyed his compound. Ava wants to get inside his mind to figure out why he's even here. At his home, Constantine wakes up on the couch to find Zari glaring at him, demanding an explanation for his behaviour. He tries to smooth things over with her to no avail. Zari goes to Astra and asks for her help to find out the truth, and they go to talk to Spooner. Meanwhile, Ava speaks with Bishop to try and get into his head, and he claims that she and Sarah are the closest thing he has left to family. Ava says she gets it, and they start talking. Bishop tells Ava that he programmed the Avas so they wouldn't fall in love, and Ava thinks that this might be the reason she's struggling to plan her wedding. Bishop offers to help, but when that doesn't get her to get him out of containment, he offers up that he can help save Mick from an alien offspring feeding on his brain. Zari asks Spooner what's happened at the Mountain of Imperium, but Spooner says she can't remember what's happened. She says there is a blank spot in her memory, like someone has put a spell on her. Ava shows up to take over for Spooner, and she goes off with Astra and Zari. Bishop, having overheard Spooner talking to people, then tells Ava that he might be able to help Constantine too. Elsewhere, Constantine is definitely not doing well, and he sees his darker self once again, who continues to taunt him that he can't get past his addiction to the potion that gives him magic. Dark Constantine tells him that he will never be rid of him because he is him. This was probably the only good thing that I enjoyed about this episode, was the battle between Constantine and his darker self. Other than that, this episode didn't really have a lot going for it. Ava has Gideon analyse Bishop's genetic code while Ava continues to talk with him. She shares with him her wedding planning binder and he starts giving her advice. She starts to freak out that she's weird and asks her why he made her that way. He tells her that while he designed her, she made herself. He also tells her that he's been cloned over 200 times. He tells Ava that the thing that was missing from him before was humility. As they continue to talk, he reveals that he knows Sarah is watching them talking, and so Ava turns the feed off. Ava and then Bishop then dance, but Ava becomes emotional and flees the room. Sarah finds Ava to talk to her. Gideon determined that Bishop is human, and Ava says that she thinks that Bishop really does want to get to know them and considers them family. Sarah says that's his angle, and Ava disagrees and says that it's not always about her. Astra uses magic to get into Spooner's memory to see what happened at the fountain, and they discover that the fountain deemed Constantine wasn't worthy. Astra says they now need to figure out what he's been dosing himself with before they can do anything else. Zari goes to speak with Constantine and he continues to not tell her the truth, but he tells her that he loves her. She tells him to go take a bath and rest before she leaves. Alone again, Constantine's dark self continues to torment him and tells him that Zari swiped his vial of potion from him. Astra explains to Zari and Spooner that it's actually blood and that Constantine has tapped into some dark and dangerous magic. Zari gives him an ultimatum, her or the blood, and he grabs the blood initially but throws the vial in the rubbish. He tells Zari that he's sorry and that he thought he had control of it. He then says he's going to lock himself in his home to detox, and Zari decides to go with him. Mick starts having terrible headaches and Gary explains that he's gone into labour, which he describes as a long and extremely painful experience. Mick starts to panic because he didn't sign up to be a single dad, and he tells Gary that he can be the baby's godfather. Sarah apologises to Ava for Bishop and about planning the wedding. Ava explains that she has no idea how she is supposed to be feeling because she hasn't had no examples of what having real emotions are like because she never had a family to love her. She has doubts that she has the ability to love a family of her own. Sarah reassures her, as they all realise that the ideas Bishop suggested are exactly what Sarah would have chosen anyway. Ava realises that the missing 6% of Bishop has been replaced with Sarah, and he overrides the Wave Rider's systems. As Mick's labour progresses, his hair starts to fall out and liquid starts oozing from his ears. They wheel Mick to the medbay, but Bishop locks down the hallway. He's trying to get to Mick and Sarah goes to fight him. They start to fight while Mick is suffering in the medbay alone as Gary is trapped outside of it. He shoots Sarah and goes into the room with Mick so he can steal the babies. Mick's alien delivery begins and Bishop starts collecting the eggs, but right as Spooner shows up to blast the door down, he opens it and presents to the team the newest legends. Bishop asks to go to his cell, even though he acts like he's sorry and really is there to help. He took something from Mick's ear, something that looks like his communicator device, and it turns out the drink he suggested for Mick to feed the babies was actually to induce labour, so he could steal the communicator. Zari and Constantine talk, and he tells her that he doesn't know why he is without magic, but says she'll have him when they get through this. He wants to be with her. Zari goes to get tea, but while she's gone, Bishop uses the communicator to talk to Constantine, telling him that he can get his powers back. Constantine takes his communicator out, but soon enough he sees his darker self again. Constantine tries to say that he's done with magic and his dark self, but Dark Constantine attacks him. Dark Constantine takes the communicator from the trash and leaves a badly injured Constantine the vial of blood which he drinks. Constantine then agrees to talk to Bishop, and that's how we end episode 13 and my review. Overall, this episode was a little bit better than episode 12. The stuff with Constantine and his darker self I thought was probably the best thing about this episode, but at the same time this episode wasn't perfect. I would probably say it was above average, but wasn't terrible, but wasn't great. It was decent. I would probably give this a decent ranking. I thought this was quite enjoyable. I certainly enjoyed this episode a lot more than I did episode 12. So that's going to be it for me. I am going to wrap this up now. What did you think of episode 13? Did you enjoy it? What kind of deal do you think Dark Constantine and Bishop will have? And also, what plans does Bishop have for the babies that he extracted from Mick Rory while inducing his labour? And also, what kind of agenda does Bishop have now that he has 6% of Sarah within him? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Legends of Tomorrow Season 6 review series, where I am going to be talking about episode 14, and hopefully it should be a decent one. So until next time, take care everybody, and stay safe, and once again, thanks for listening.